Today I'm going to show you how to replace your oil cooler on your 2011 and newer 3.6 liter Chrysler product. This is a 2012 Jeep Wrangler. It's going to be a similar process though for your Dodge or your Chrysler, whatever you got. Let's check it out. Since coolant does pass through the cooler, we're going to want to drain some coolant out. So underneath the front passenger side, you'll see the drain valve. Catch it in a bucket and go ahead and remove your rad cap to get her flowing. And we'll drain out what's left of the oil. Up in the engine bay now, we're going to start digging our way to the oil cooler, starting by taking off the air box. We got two 10mm bolts, hose clamp, electrical connection down here. Then we got a breather hose that just broke, and then 4 clips on the air box. It's not really in the way, but this bottom half just lifts right out. Get some stuff off the intake manifold, like a breather hose here, 2 more breathers. Now onto the throttle body, we're going to start unplugging stuff. Then this other one is what we took off the air box. Unplug this one up here, and then the wire loom is just clipped up on the intake manifold in a couple different spots here. One there. Staying in the same area, we're going to take off the bracket that all that wire was attached to. 2 bolts down here, and the 2 nuts up top here. Now at the back of the intake by the firewall here, we need to get rid of this piece. There's 2 of these clips you can get out with your pry tool or a screwdriver or something. Push that thing back out of the way and it'll reveal 2 10mm bolts. We'll get those off. That allows us to get this piece out. Now we only have 2 more brackets, one on each side. You're looking at the passenger side of the motor, right beside the intake manifold. 2 bolts right here need to come out, 10mm. And then there's 2 nuts here by the AC lines on the other end of that bracket. These we're just gonna loosen up a little bit. And that'll just give us enough flexibility with that bracket to be able to get that intake manifold out. Another bracket here on the driver's side, same idea. Top ones we'll remove completely. The bottom ones are 13mm and they're a little bit harder to get to. So there's the one up front, but same idea. We just have to loosen these. Back one is a little bit harder to get to. And all we're trying to do there is loosen it enough to pull the bracket past the studs so we can lift the intake out. Now we're ready to take off the upper intake manifold. There's 7 5/16 bolts holding it on. 3 of them are up top here. They don't have to come all the way out either. And then 4 of them are on the bottom. And then there's one back around the corner here. Let me see if I can get you in there. Right there in the center. Let's get this upper intake manifold out. Everything should be free. Yep. Now I was in here before, about a year ago. That one harness on the passenger side is clipped in right here and you would need to pop those out. I didn't show that in this video because I just left them off from last time. Ready to remove the lower intake manifold now. We got 8 5/16 bolts on here, 4 up each side, and again, these don't need to come all the way out. Another one's kind of right underneath this bracket. Good. That should free that up. Also worth noting, we can leave the fuel line connected. We're in. We can confirm the suspected leaking oil cooler. If I shine a light down here and rock the Jeep around, you can just see how much oil has collected in the valley. And as you can see, this is made of plastic. But since the intake ports are right here and the valves are down below, I'm gonna put some rags in each port. Start simple by unplugging electrical connectors. Pull back on the red collar, push the button, remove. Right here is a coolant hose coming into the cooler with a clamp on it. Let's see if I can get that off now. If not, we'll unbolt the cooler and then try and get it off later. All right, plan B. What you need now is an E8 Torx, which is an inverted Torx, to remove 5 fasteners holding the oil cooler. Once you have all the bolts out, there are still some oil lines on the bottom with O-rings. You might have to pull past them. Much better access. Hold still. There we go. Oh, that's coming too. And coolant. Be all right. All right. Get this oil cooler out. And it's a mess. We gotta get all this oil out of here. This valley here is actually a lot deeper than it may seem. Soaking it up. Get it all cleaned up in here. Then we'll have a look at our new housing. Got the valley pretty well cleaned up using a bunch of rags and the needle nose pliers, kind of get them down in there. And I was actually able to use the baster to like get most of it out. So there's a good bit in there. Here's our new 1-piece aluminum unit from Dorman. Comes completely disassembled, but it does come with every gasket you need. We'll put the oil cooler gaskets in first, and then there's some alignment pins to make sure you put it on right. Also comes with new hardware, torqued down to 9 foot-pounds. Next, we'll put in our 2 sensors, the oil pressure and the oil temperature. If you're reusing your old ones, make sure you wrap them in thread tape. But I had to get new sensors. Since it's a plastic housing, they have to put in a little metal sleeve for the sensor to thread into. The sleeve is just spinning inside the plastic, so I couldn't get that one out. Then the pressure sensor broke off by accident, and that was completely my fault. But anyway, the new sensors have the thread sealant built into them, so we're able just to install them like normal. Both sensors get torqued to 15 foot-pounds. Now I guess I'll go a half turn more so the connector's on top. I think I'll be able to get that one plugged in. I got the cooler torqued down, sensors are installed. Now we'll flip her around and we'll install the O-rings, and we'll just make sure we get them oiled up. These aren't all the same. That one's smaller, these two are the same, and then that's a bigger one on the end. And then we have an O-ring that goes around right there. That pretty much wraps up everything we can do on the bench. We're ready to throw this back in the Jeep. We will first get that coolant hose on. I feel like if there's enough slack, I should cut some of that off. It's not very tight anymore. Oh, that ain't gonna work. I can pull that right off. I got a legit hose clamp to put on there. There you go. Tug test. Much better. Guess we'll just put this one right behind it, just cause. Now we can lower it on there. This tube is gonna be the first to contact, and it might take a little bit of force to kind of squish down on there. There it went. That felt pretty solid. Again, all new hardware included. Let's get our 2 sensors plugged in. Everything is plugged in and the bolts are snug. So now we can torque this thing down. 9 foot-pounds, but there is also a torque sequence, which I will do right now. I will also throw it up on the screen. Might as well throw in our new oil filter, push her down in there, put on our fancy new orange cap. On here, it says 25 plus 5 Newton meters, which sounds a whole lot like 30 to me. But what do I know? This is more of a dork spec anyway. Probably never do this again, but we'll do it this time. Don't forget the O-ring for your cap. I almost forgot. We are ready to start reassembly. Now, even though I did these about a year ago, the new kit came with new gaskets. So I'm just gonna replace them real quick just to show you. It's actually really simple. You just gotta hook them out of there, clean it off real quick. And then the new gaskets, there's no specific way it goes in. Line them up, push them in. That's good to go. Ready to put the lower intake manifold back on. Make sure you got everything nice and cleaned off. So we'll lower the manifold on. Get a couple of these bolts started. We got all the bolts snugged down, and now we're gonna torque them, 9 foot-pounds. And again, there is a torque pattern, which I'm gonna do right now, and I'll also put it on the screen again. Lower intake is torqued and injectors are plugged in now. So we're gonna switch these gaskets out for the upper intake manifold. We'll clean up and we'll install new ones. Ready for the upper intake manifold. Cleaned off all the ports. So we're ready to drop this on. So make sure these back studs go inside that bracket. Just put it on real easy like. Get a couple of them started. So that looks good. I'm gonna get all these bolts snugged up and then we'll torque them. We're going to 8 foot-pounds this time, and I will throw the torque pattern up on the screen right now. That's it. So I forgot to put this back on, the foam thing. So I'm gonna redo that. But from here on out, you're just putting it back together exactly how it came apart. We'll fast forward to the end, top it off with coolant and oil, make sure everything is working. If I snag up on anything, I'll let you know. Got everything buttoned up. Everything went together pretty smooth. We got 5 quarts of oil in there and we topped it off on coolant. So now we're gonna run the Jeep, keep an eye on the coolant, let it bleed, add if we need to. And I'm also gonna keep an eye on the valley. If you look just in front of the oil filter housing, you can get a little bit of a peek of the valley. Make sure nothing's leaking down there, make sure it stays dry. We'll just let it get up to operating temp and we'll call it good. Staying dry so far, everything sounds good. Didn't drink any coolant yet. No leaks underneath, that's good too. All right, we got her. The cooling system took a lot longer to bleed than I thought it would. It was kind of scaring me because we didn't have any heat. After a while, the thermostat finally opened up, drank it down. So we're all good there. We got heat, everything looks dry in the valley, and everything sounds in good shape. Now I will say, I will be doing an oil change a lot sooner than I normally would, just because I think some coolant and oil mixed in the valley there and could have gotten cross-contaminated. So I'm probably gonna change in about 500 miles, but that is gonna wrap it up for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it helped. Take it easy and I'll see you in the next one.